Hebrews chapter 8, verse 10. And the King James Version says, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my laws in their mind and write them on their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. None of them shall teach his neighbor and none of his brothers, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their lawless deeds I will remember no more." In that he says, a new covenant he has made the first obsolete. The old covenant of law is all about what you must do. However, the new covenant is full of what God will do. Notice the number of times "I will" appears in this passage. Instead of having laws written on cold pieces of stone, God, under the new covenant, has declared that He Himself will put His laws in your mind and write them on your heart. God is very clear that He is done with the old covenant. So make no mistake about this. The laws that He will write on your heart are not the 10 Commandments. So what are the laws that He will put in you? In John 13 and 34, God said that He has given us a new commandment, to love one another as He has loved us. In Romans 3:27, the Apostle Paul mentions the law of faith. So the laws that God will put in your heart are His royal law of love and the law of faith. What does it mean to have God's law of love put in our minds and inscribed on our hearts? This brings about such powerful ripple effects that I don't even know where to start. When you begin to experience God's love and unmerited favor in your life, knowing that you don't deserve His grace, you will fall head over heels in love with Jesus. When you are full of the love of Jesus, that love overflows into all of your relationships, first with God, then with your spouse, family members, friends, co-workers, and with everyone whom you meet. Without any commands from God, you will start falling in love with your spouse all over again. Romance blossoms, and the grace of Jesus refreshes your marriage. You won't want to entertain thoughts of adultery because you are in love with your spouse. In fact, it is only when you are filled with Jesus' love for you that you can fulfill Paul's commandment in Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ has also loved the church and gave Himself for her. Men, do you realize that the focus is not on what we have to do or on our love for our own wives? The truth is that we first need to be filled with the love of Christ for us. We can love only because He first loved us. Similarly, when you are consumed by Jesus' love, you will not be consumed by murderous anger, even when you've been wrong, but would instead have the supernatural ability to forgive others. This is what Paul said in Romans 13 and in verse 9. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet, and if there is any other commandment, are all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. In fact, when you receive God's love, you will not just fulfill the law effortlessly, but you will also exceed it. The new covenant is all about having a living, dynamic, and intimate relationship with Jesus.